Welcome to Strategic Analytics for Leaders. In this video, we'll examine several different ways in which you can convert data into meaningful measures and metrics. We will integrate Microsoft Access and Excel and use formulas and formatting to perform common calculations needed in organizations. Let's take a look.
Hi, welcome to our Module 2 Camtasia video. In this module, we're going to be examining several of the different import features, so Excel's ability to import text files, access database files, and web query information. Secondly, we'll be examining several of the mathematical functions, which include the Formulas tab and the 13 different types of functions there. Because of how many there are, we'll start small and simply look at some of the basics, but we'll try to walk through several examples of both mathematical as well as text level functions. And finally, because of the interoperability of Microsoft Excel with a host of other software products, we'll be examining ways in which you can copy and paste and integrate Excel worksheets into Microsoft Word, into PowerPoint documents, saving Excel workbooks as and exporting Excel workbooks as PDFs. So first things first, let's get started looking at some of the import features within Microsoft Excel. So if we come to the Data tab, we'll be working on the Data tab for this first section. The very first piece is if we get external data from text. So I have a text file saved, and I'm going to use that, sample data. Now, each time that you go through this process, Excel is going to bring up a text import wizard and really walk you through the 3 steps needed here. So, most importantly, I'll point out to you, your text file needs to be set up in a particular way. Typically, your text is going to be separated either with commas or the use of tabs or other particular characters or fields. You know, if there's a slash to separate one field from another, that falls into this delimited. Okay? The next piece on here, start import at row. My data does have headers. I do know, and simply looking at this example, first name, last name, company name, these are the field names essentially, and it's found in the header row. So I'm going to click Next. This screen lets you set the delimiters as your data contains, so you'll see it's separated based on tabs. There's no commas differentiating each of the fields. It already recognized that, so we'll click Next. This screen lets you set and select each column and set the data format. So, for example, if we know that this first column is text, we'll set that. Second one is also text. And again, this relies on ensuring that all of your data has that clean and consistent formatting, because without clean and consistent formatting, it'll lead to many headaches and additional work for you as you clean it up and scrub the data. So I'm setting these. And we don't have any date fields. And even though the phone numbers, you say, oh, that should be a numeric field. No, it really is textual. And finally, you have the ability, if you do not want to include one of the columns, that you could say, do not import and skip this column, such as here. Okay? I'm going to move on and finish. Excel then asks me, select how you want to view this data in your workbook. Where do you want to put it? I want to put it into an existing worksheet. And it's giving this cell here, and I'll say, okay. So think about the value of that. It's brought in automatically all of this text without the need to recreate or retype or reformat. We have approximately 500 rows already here. Okay, so that's the first piece, and I'm going to label this sheet import from txt. Okay, I'll click the plus down here to get a new tab because we're going to try to import using an Access database. So again, this is bringing records that have already been set up in an Access database, saving you the time and effort of having to retype and reformat, and simply being able to connect Access with Excel. And this again is that integration feature, which is so important. So I'm going to say from Access, I'll find where I have that file saved. I have some sample census data. So that Access database has two tables. The first table is the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and the second table is population by state. So you can choose one or multiple. So in this case I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to have both tables imported. So I'm going to click OK. Select how you want to view this data in your workbook. I want it to really be set up as a table in this new worksheet, so I'm going to click OK. If we see here, so now I have this extra tab, so I'm going to delete this tab, and this worksheet is our, I'm going to say import from ACCDB, import from Access Database, CPI. Okay, that's our Consumer Price Index data, and that was taken directly from our Access Database. And this one, I'm going to rename this tab, oops, all capital letters. I'm going to just call this Census. Now, I want you to see, be able to compare what the data looks like in our Access database as well as what it looks like in our Excel table. Okay, so you see here our Access database, we have a CPI table, our columns according to month, and then our records according to year. So I'll flip back to Excel. You can see they correspond directly here. And next we'll show you what the census data looks like. ID, state, and then census data for July 2011, 10, 9, and 8. So there we go. Okay, so again, showing that integration and ability to connect the two programs. Third piece is a really neat feature I'd like to share with you, and this is being able to go out to different websites that have tables and data and statistics already set up and be able to link directly to them. So let's take a look there. Data tab, I'm on a new worksheet within the workbook. Data tab, I'm going to choose from web within the get external data. It's going to ask me which, now don't be alarmed if you see these errors. It's the different scripts that are running on the page. Now I already have, this link. So I found a website, our Pennsylvania Workforce Development, high priority occupations for Montgomery County. You see that this is just, I mean, you could certainly export it from Excel, but you see that it's nicely organized already in a table format. So if I bring it over, I'm going to stop. I'm going to select and I'm going to paste in that link. Now I want you to see what happens. Take a look. It's put in all of these little arrows, and if I hover over the arrow, it's selecting a different section within the website. So if I scroll down, I want to select this entire table. And when I click on that yellow arrow, it changes to a green check mark. So I'm going to click Import. Where do you want to put the data? Into this existing worksheet, and it's going to put it into this worksheet starting in cell A1. So I'll click OK. You see that it's communicating with the server, and automatically places all of that data into this worksheet. So pretty cool. That feature is available for any website that has data already defined and set up in rows and columns, so keep that in mind. That's a helpful feature. I'll rename this tab Import from Web Query. Okay. Next piece, I'll walk you through the different mathematical functions. So in this case, we're going to be looking at the Formulas tab, and within this function library, if you recall, in our earlier video, I mentioned that there's 13 different types of functions. So our very basic auto sum functions, we have recently used, anything that's kind of top of mind here, different financial functions. So accounting, finance, you'll see as you scroll through here, coupon rates, is payment rates, price, yields, different logical functions. This is where it's testing whether something's true, false, is an error or not. We can apply functions to text, to bring two pieces of text together. We can kind of perform manipulations on the text. There's specific date and time functions to allow you to manipulate the format and get more specific data based on a date and time field. Lookup and reference, again, is matching out to some of the structure of Excel to help you get information, so transposing rows and columns. VLOOKUP is a very popular one that we often use, and I used in accounting and finance, as well as getting pivot data out from a pivot table. Math and trig functions. These are all different types of calculations that can be performed on the data. So you see trigonometric functions, degrees, cosine, more functions within here. So digging deeper into the statistical level, chi-squares, engineering. Cube has to do with database. It's more of a database language or terminology there. Information is very similar to some of our logic and text functions. Compatibility, again, some crossover here with our statistical data. And then finally, web functions, really going out and fetching information from different websites. So starting very, very simply, you have a series of numbers. Clicking the auto sum button will automatically put it into that formula. Every formula starts with an equal sign. Equal sign, if you were to translate that into words, means calculate. The next set of letters is your function, so calculate the sum of the quantity, parentheses means quantity, cell A1 through cell A10. Enter. Calculates it as 110. Same thing, if I highlighted these numbers, I just draw your attention to lower right corner. You always get a sum, a count, and an average anytime you highlight a series of numbers. I'm just going to label that sum. Next, let's try to do an average. Pay attention here. So this time it's saying equals average of cell A11. That's not what I want. I want to highlight the series. So now the formula becomes equals average, parentheses, the quantity of A1 through A10. That colon in the middle means through. Okay, let's go down the line, count. Again, I want to specify my series, count. Max, again the max in this series. Min, highlight, enter. And we'll stop there for now. So I quickly, very, very quickly was able to perform some calculations. So I gave you some translations earlier. Equal sign, every equation starts with an equal sign means calculate. Sum, average, max, min, count. These are all examples of functions, or the type of calculation or manipulation. Parentheses means the quantity of. Colon means through. So as I was going through those formulas, I guess I just think it's important for you to understand the translation of what each of these symbols means in words so that you truly do understand how Excel is performing the calculation. So calculate the sum of the quantity of cells A1 through A10. Okay? It's a different language. You really are learning a different language and being able to translate the formulas into English so that you understand what's happening. I don't expect that you would remember every perfect syntax of how to perform all of these formulas. You know, it becomes very tricky if you're one comma off or the parentheses is missing. You will likely get an error for that formula. That's okay. No one is expected to have every one of these formulas and its structure memorized. So please do keep in mind that by understanding kind of the language behind the formula, it will help you to be able to troubleshoot. Okay, so one other item that I wanted to share with you is just one of the text functions. Certainly in a video format, I'm not going to have time to go through every single one of these, nor will every single one of these formulas apply to you. But I wanted to give an example of a text formula. So, right? So you always start with the cell that you would like the formula to be applied within. I want to concatenate. That means join several text strings into one text string. So I can concatenate equals concatenate, and I'm going to click on Mary for the first one and Jones for the second one. Let's see what that looks like. I'll click OK. Mary Jones. I don't want it to be one word, Mary Jones. I want it to be Mary space Jones. So what would I do if I were to fix that? Let's try again. Mary. In my second field, I'll press the space bar, space, and in my third field, I'll point to Jones. Okay, yeah, that's it, Mary space Jones. So I can then drag that formula down, and it will apply that same logic to the text there. So that might be helpful to you in examples where you need to join 2 columns worth of text or split it apart. I'd encourage you to pay attention to some of the formulas within that text function library. Okay, last, so I'm going to put my formulas and label that tab. Last but not least, well, we'll stay on this tab. Last but not least, I wanted to spend a moment just to share with you how Excel can export data and integrate with other programs. So if, for example, I really liked the way that this came together, and I wanted to copy this entire section into a Word document or a PowerPoint document. So if I open up Word, come to a blank document, get rid of all this navigation. I want you to see that I can simply paste in, and it's literally just going to paste it in as a table, or we could do a paste special and paste it in as a Microsoft Excel worksheet object. Check out what happens then. So it's okay, it's basically recognizing that we're sharing information, and sure enough, it puts it in. It's in Excel format. The formatting is the same. I can double click to get into the data and be able to make changes. Okay? So it's important, particularly if you're putting together a report or some type of presentation, to be able to pull in your data from Excel into any of the other Office suite of programs is important. Same thing goes for integrating with PowerPoint. I'll make a new slide and I'm going to get rid of this text box, and I'm going to just quickly paste. And you see when I just do a regular Control-V to paste, it pastes it in as this one object, or similar to how we did it earlier, we could paste special and paste it in as a Microsoft Excel worksheet object. Again, it brings over the formatting. You can double click to get into it and make those connections with Excel. Okay, last but not least, I'll escape out of that. I'll point out to you, of course, some of the Save As features. You could save this document, this workbook, in different Save As types. Some common ones that we often see: Excel workbooks being saved as a macro enabled if you have macros within your workbook. If you're looking to send your Excel workbook to someone who has an older version of Excel, you would want to use Excel 97 to 2003. In some cases, you want to set Excel up as a template. In other cases, you want to simply save it as a text file, so it works backwards, same as how we imported the data as a text file into Excel. We can export it to a text file. Similarly with a CSV, comma separated, comma delimited file here. Okay, but last but not least, I'll point out to you that we of course have the export function feature here, in which you can create a PDF that is essentially a read-only for purposes of viewing the document on a screen or printing it out. Your recipients and users can't make changes to the Excel document because it's preserved, it's a snapshot, it's a PDF. Okay? So I'll save this as sample PDF. And I'll click Publish. And sure enough, it opens it up in your PDF reader, whether it's Foxit or Adobe Reader, and you're unable to make changes. It's static, simply for viewing and printing purposes. So this Camtasia video really focused on the import features, the calculation and formula features, as well as the export features, and the integration of Excel with the other suite of Microsoft products, whether it's Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, etc.
I'm glad you were able to watch. Organizations often need to manipulate their data through the use of formatting and formulas to help them perform calculations. Converting data into a more meaningful format supports the organization's ability to analyze information and find solutions.